Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining me today is indeed my great co-host, Gary. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. I'm excited to talk about some football as always. It's not our mock week, but that was a lot of fun. Now it's time to talk about some breakout or bust players.
Breakout and bust of the second year. Technically, they're about to be second years. Technically, they're still rookies if you think about it until the new season starts. But I mean, we had a lot of guys that we're going to be talking about today because there was a lot of them being drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, and we have a little bonus guy in Trey Benson that we're going to talk about. And yeah, we're going to get to kind of what we're expecting for the fantasy season for those second year breakouts. And before we get into that, before we get into the best part of the show, we got to talk about some news and notes around the league. And first off, I want to talk about Rob Gronkowski is going to come back to the NFL.
I did see that. I saw possible team was the Broncos. I think was the one team listed that I saw. Um, hey, man, if he comes out and balls out, props to him. I don't know if he will, and if he does, can he still play at the high level? We'll see. But would be an intriguing story because he's one of the best of all time.
I think for me, I think I would love to see him in Cincinnati. He mentioned there was a little mention of how he could be going to Cincinnati if he did come out of retirement, pulling a Brady. But I think he kind of shut down the rumors today, saying that some people know more the news than himself because he didn't think he was going to come back himself. And he just got back from Australia, I believe, and he said he's going to spend a lot of time to relax from it. I mean, it'd be nice to see one more season out of Gronkowski, but again, he only played with Brady ever in his career. Does he come back to play with any quarterback that he wants? I don't think so. I think it's going to be really on which quarterback he ideally wants to play for if there was a chance. And I think the only chance really is Las Vegas because Brady's the owner. Hopefully not. But I think realistically it's Cincinnati for me.
That would be a great fit, obviously, because they're already loaded with offensive talent. And I mean, if there were a skill position to, boost, it would be the tight end room, I guess. Um, yeah, I mean, that would be cool to see. Joe Burrow just had an unbelievable season. So if Rob Gronkowski is able to come back and play at a relatively high level, then that would just make them even more stacked.
Yeah, exactly. And if Gronkowski went to, say, for instance, the Bengals, are they Super Bowl? Obviously, they're already kind of Super Bowl contenders, but are they clear-cut Super Bowl contenders for the AFC?
I wouldn't I wouldn't just base it off that, to be honest with you. I know, like I said, if he goes there and he's able to compete at a high level, it makes their offense all the more better. But let's just be honest, like that defense was atrocious last year, and I think it rests with them. I mean, however well they play is however well the Bengals or however far the Bengals are going to go because, I mean, the offense can only play so good. They played phenomenal last year, and it was only enough for 9 wins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's the biggest thing is going to be the defense. I think they're going to use a lot of draft capital on defense this year because they're not going to have a lot of money to spend with all these contracts that they're going to have to, make. So, yeah, we'll
They
see.
could they could just let T. Higgins and Jamar Chase walk if they really want to.
Yeah, they could, but I mean, let's be honest. Like that doesn't make it. At least, I mean, obviously
They shouldn't.
Jamar's going to get signed. And
Yeah, of
T,
course.
like, I mean, they shouldn't let him go either. But
No, hopefully T. Higgins does go back to Cincinnati. Speaking of someone who wants their quarterback to stay on their team, is Sean McVay. Uh, in quotes, first goal in mind is to bring Stafford back. Now, obviously, I heard rumors that Stafford had a little dinner with Mr. Tom Brady himself. So the question is if Stafford does leave, do we see maybe a Stafford and Cooper Cup in Las Vegas?
That would be cool. Yeah, I mean, I know the Raiders and Giants are pursuing heavily for Stafford. Um, it could definitely be the case, but I don't know where Cup's head is at because, I mean, after all the messages that he was kind of dropping on us last year, it
Mm.
got me feeling like the bridges might have been burned a little bit there. Um, I don't know. That might not be the case at all. But I'm going to bring this up because I don't think I saw it anywhere on your notes. I saw something that Rogers said he would love to go to the Rams if
I
Stafford's no longer there, and he would bring Devontae Adams from him.
It wasn't on my notes, but I did have it in mind to talk about because I
Okay.
forgot to
Okay.
put it in notes. Yeah, but yeah, no, you're completely right. I mean, we'll jump right into it because it's a big quarterback wide receiver duo that could be going to the Raiders, but we could also be seeing a new face in Los Angeles for the Rams in Rodgers and in also Devontae Adams, which personally, in my opinion, I think this would probably be one of the best fits for Aaron Rodgers because it's kind of like an older team that kind of already has all the pieces that you want to go win a Super Bowl. We saw it a few years ago with them going to the Super Bowl, and this team really has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They were just 10-7, won their division. So there's a chance that Aaron Rodgers is very intrigued, and I think Sean McVay is also very intrigued. Now, obviously, Stafford's the quarterback there, so what McVay has to do is obviously back his current quarterback, but I think that's all just kind of a joke in my opinion. I think it's going to be more. We know Aaron Rodgers wants to go somewhere. And I think the Rams is a very very high possibility.
I completely agree. I think it's a great fit for him. It'll be cool to see Devontae as well in LA. But more on Aaron Rodgers, I also saw him reach out to New York, as in the Giants.
I don't think he should. I think he would be dumb to go there.
Well, I agree with you, but I saw that he had already reached out to him. So if it's his only option, then he might end up there, and maybe that stakes up the draft a little bit. I don't think it will. I think the Giants would still go with this quarterback in that scenario, but who knows?
They talked about possibly GM for the Giants talked about that they're open to moving up or moving down, and obviously I don't think the GM knows really what he's doing because during the interviews of the NFL Combine, the first question that was asked was about Saquon Barkley and his departure of the New York Giants. And I don't know if you saw the video, but it was a very, very vague response
We
of,
didn't.
yeah, it's I'm happy for Barkley. I'm happy he went out to go win a championship, and I wish him all the best and this and that. Like, I just felt like inside he was crying
Yeah.
but like he was trying to be as professional as possible because he knew we saw it in the Hard Knocks. We saw the videos and everything of the Giants and how they said you can't let off. Barkley goes to the Eagles, and sure enough, there he goes to the Eagles, and
Yeah.
sure enough, he wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Very well deserved, by the way. Speaking of a Super Bowl Eagles team, Eagles offensive tackle Jason Peters is officially retiring, and he's planning on joining the Seahawks front office.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't actually know that he was still playing. I'll be quite frankly honest with you. But yeah,
He's up there in
been,
age.
yeah, he is old. But he's been pretty good for his entire career. So kudos to him.
Just an FYI, he is 43 years old.
Wow. Makes sense then as to why I wouldn't know that he's still playing, I guess.
Yeah, 43. Crazy to think. On the other side of the ball, of where the Chiefs end up losing the Super Bowl, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is expected to return for a 13th season. I mean, I think personally we kind of all expected him to come back for another season. I don't think he would be leaving on such a low note like that. It's not really a low note. You went to the Super Bowl, but you didn't win the Super Bowl. And you didn't do the three-peat that you wanted. So in a way, it's a big low note for the Chiefs. I think he still wants that one more ring at least. And I think he's going to try and get it. And if it's not next year, maybe the year after. But again, 2 years max is the time limit that I'm giving on Travis Kelce. But he's only got one more year on his contract too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, I kind of saw this coming just due to the fact that, he has one more year on his contract. But also, I mean, speaking from a Browns fan's perspective, going to the Super Bowl is like winning the lottery, whether you win it or lose it. But for the Chiefs, of course, losing the Super Bowl, that's something that maybe is unexpected for them. So Travis Kelce's pretty much coming back saying, let's give it one more go, and whatever happens, I will push my decision back a year. So we'll see.
Crazy how there's different expectations for different teams. Chiefs' expectations to win a Super Bowl. Browns' expectations just to get over 500.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to a Colts, AFC, what is it? AFC South. Colts, they are talking about making QB Anthony Richardson having to compete for the QB1 job. General manager for the Colts, Chris Ballard, mentioned that it's not Anthony Richardson's job officially. He has to compete for it. I think this is more just kind of talking a little bit to what we see every single year with specific teams. Oh, he has to compete for the job. In the end, he will get the QB1 job, no doubt about it. But I think this is a big eye-opener too, because I didn't think Anthony Richardson was going to be that great this year, nor when he got into the league. He's got great speed. He's got great mobility. Don't get me wrong. Can he be a successful quarterback? I think this is the year we're going to see it. And if he struggles again, we may see him get benched.
Yeah, that'll be definitely something to keep an eye on, because I remember, I mean, obviously they used high draft pick. I think it was the 8th pick overall to draft him. And so far, I mean, you could say what you want. Maybe he hasn't had the best opportunity because he's been hurt a lot, but in the time that he has played, he hasn't looked phenomenal. Although he has shown some flashes. He has a rocket cannon of an arm. So if he can get it all figured out, he can be a great quarterback, I personally believe. But definitely will be something to keep an eye on, because I feel like the Colts are always a sneaky team to like be able to snag up that last playoff spot. They always have a pretty good defense, and it's just gonna lie in his hands, I think, if he's able to take that next step.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that is going to be a big question mark going into the year for the Colts. Abdul Carter, he wants to be the number 1 overall pick. He says he's the best player in the country. And I don't think I blame him for wanting to be number 1, because obviously quarterbacks go first, because there's quarterback needing teams who are trying to build a franchise and can't build a franchise with the face of the franchise, which is your quarterback. But I do agree, if it was different and we had someone that really needed a defensive player, or actually looked at it as we need the best player available, I think Abdul Carter is the best player available in this draft. Will he go number 1? I don't think so, but unfortunately, that's just how life works. He will be number 1 overall, ranked-wise, but won't be number 1 overall off the boards.
No, I hope he's number 2, though. I completely agree with him. I think he is the best player in this draft, and man, it sucks because I've been seeing a lot of news about the fact that we are pretty on track to draft a quarterback this draft. So, you know how long I've been pushing for that Shadur agenda to come to Cleveland, but man, I said it when we did our first mock draft. I love Abdul Carter. I think he's got to be the right pick if he were to get to number 2. But yeah, man, draft's coming up. I'm excited.
He can fall to number 4 too. I mean, I'm fine with that too.
Could.
I wouldn't mind that. I would take him. As much as a Patriots fan, I want a wide receiver or some offensive line. I think getting Abdul Carter at number 4, I think, is a steal.
Oh yeah.
But Khalil Shakir, he's getting some money. He signed a 4-year, $60.2 million contract extension. I feel like Shakir just always is he's just gonna be a bill for life. Because he's got to pay the bills. And sure enough, he got the bills. I think it's a great signing for the Bills because of how great he can be in a dynamic way for Buffalo. And I like it for them. I do think it might be a little expensive that they spent on him a little bit. I thought $60 million was a lot for a 4-year contract. But what are they seeing him as? Are they seeing him as a wide receiver 2 and Keon Coleman going as the wide receiver 1? I don't know if I can say Keon Coleman deserves to be wide receiver 1, but then again, you want to keep players that maybe Josh Allen likes and likes to throw to. And if Khalil Shakir is one of the top guys he likes to throw to or likes to find, then I guess you just have to eat up the money and pay him.
Dude, that's a ton of money, and I like Khalil Shakir. I really do. But if you look at the average that he's getting, it's somewhere around 15 million, and you have Saquon getting 12.5 million a year for on his deal. So
Such a crazy difference.
again, like I say, I'll never understand the trade market. I will also never understand the contract market because, I mean, I mean, I'm not gonna by any means say Saquon Barkley single-handedly carried the Eagles because he didn't whatsoever. But in my opinion, if we're just going player by player, he is by far the best and most valuable player on that team. And I mean, he showed it this season. So
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that Khalil Shakir is going to be earning close to $3 million a year more than Saquon Barkley, but that's sign of the world that we're living in. So
It really is. I mean, hopefully Barkley can get some type of like big pay, but
yeah,
Shakir, I just want to see what they're going to utilize him for with that amount of money because it
yeah,
has to be
agreed,
something better than a wide receiver for 3 or 4.
agreed.
Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta talked about the allegations on Justin Tucker, saying it's serious and concerning, and he's going to be taking a big, close look into the NFL with the investigations that's going on. The reason why I also wanted to put this in here is Justin Tucker, as a kicker, take away all this allegations and everything. Justin Tucker as a kicker, before this happened, would he have been a Hall of Famer as a kicker?
In a heartbeat.
Now, with the allegations, now, say for instance, he loses his job and he's no longer part of the NFL. Does he get into the Hall of Fame?
Man, I don't know. I think he still will. To be honest with you, I think he still will. It's like I don't know. I don't want to get into like the legal stuff that's obviously going
Yeah.
on. Um, I'm gonna say that he still is, but it's tough. I hope this doesn't end his career. Or I mean, I guess I wouldn't necessarily mind as Browns fan, but he is one of the best kickers I've ever seen of all time. Debatably the best. So it would suck if, especially if this is the way he ended his career because this year was not good.
Yeah, exactly. I think this obviously he would be a clear cut first ballot Hall of Famer. I think as a kicker, I think this might push him back, maybe a ballot or
Okay.
two. I
Okay.
think I think obviously you have to look at who's going to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, you're looking at off the field stuff as well, but mainly the Hall of Fame people should be players who you look at going into the NFL and who has done amazing in the NFL and who's broken records and everything. And Justin Tucker fits that category. Now, that's why I think it's still going to push him a couple ballots behind because of everything that happens. But he very well may not even go there if it does
Yeah.
end up ending his career.
Yeah.
So, some other news: Jaguars. They have got themselves a general manager, James Gladstone, the former Rams director of college scouting. I don't know if you got to see him, but I feel as if, obviously, I don't know really too much about him, but the way he handled the media and everything, he just looks like a guy that can succeed as a general manager.
Okay.
He very much could. I could just be wrong, but he really does look like a guy that can fix that organization, and he just seems like a guy that could also be like best buds with Liam Cohen.
We'll see because we both mutually agree that they need a lot of work. So
I'm hoping Liam Cohen, the head coach for the not OC for the Bucks, former OC for the Bucks, but head coach for the Jaguars. He's a former Warwick, Rhode Island guy. We got to. I want him to succeed. Get Warwick, Rhode Island
well,
on the map.
the thing with me is like I actually growing up liked the Jaguars. They were probably my second favorite AFC team because they were always at the bottom with the Browns. And I was like, you know what? This fan base feels our pain, And when they had that stacked 2016 defense, 2017, whatever it was, obviously, of course, ran into you guys. But that team was nasty, and I was rooting for them the entire time in the playoffs.
Of course you were.
Well, again, like I said, they're probably my second favorite AFC team because they've just been feeling our pain. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see this team do good. It's just I don't I don't see it unless Liam Cohen can work some magic with T Law. Um, I don't know. I'm not a T Law guy, and I know you're not either. So
I'm not a T-Law guy, but I can't knock you for having them as your second favorite AFC team because they're also mine.
oh, awesome, nice.
I've liked them. I've liked them since Leonard Fournette came into existence for
Hmm.
the Jaguars, and I just liked how their offense worked with him and everything. I just didn't think Leonard Fournette got the chance to really prove himself as a worthy running back, as what I always thought he was to be. And then the Jaguars kind of just ruined my it ruined my love over the years for the Jaguars because it just corrupted. It just kept going corruption. And it just the head coaching was horrendous. The GM was horrendous. The owner's horrendous. But I think now maybe we're really turning a new leaf here. And hopefully maybe the turning of a new leaf could be T-Log gets out. But I know he won't because of the contract.
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
we'll
But
see. We'll see.
I honestly felt the way you felt with Fournette, for Fournette, MJD, and James
Yes.
Robinson. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
all three of those guys.
All three of them. They're
When they were a
amazing.
Jag. Yeah, they were all good Jaguars. So tough to see that none of them are playing anymore. But Leonard Fournette, maybe he's eyeing a return. He said he wants to sign with the team. So
I just want him to get a chance, but I know his career is pretty much done.
probably.
Yeah. Last set of notes. Draft combine. Hypothetically, it has started. It's kind of like a soft start. The past couple days, it was the coach and general manager interviews yesterday and today, or for you today, for me yesterday, based on time zone. But the draft combine is set to be February 27th to March 2nd. February 27th is defensive line and linebackers at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by defensive backs and tight ends on the 28th. 29th is quarterbacks, wide receivers at 1 p.m. And then the first is offensive line at 1 p.m. as well. And then the second is just going to be kind of a wrap up of the combine. And I think the biggest ones, obviously, is Saturday and Sunday, technically every single day is an important day. But for fantasy wise, it's going to be more the 28th and the 1st because of the tight ends, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Also, the running backs also are in there. Don't know why I don't have it on there, but the running backs are also another one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, I think the combine is going to really show some big things that we're going to want to see, but also we're not going to see a lot of people participate in the combine, which I hate to see.
Yeah, and to an extent, I get it. Like, you don't want to further risk injury, especially if you're already a solidified top pick. But I also agree with you. It's like, that's what the combine is for. And before, like, social media presence, I don't think we really saw like stuff like this at all. So
yeah, exactly. Obviously, we'll have a little bit talking about everything that's going to happen with the combine as we get closer to it. So Sunday, we'll have some recap of what we kind of saw. If we saw anything major, maybe we'll see the 40-yard dash be broken again.
And maybe.
Gary, you got any more news notes from around the league?
I mean, I got a notification a few minutes ago. It's nothing like crazy, but to all the Lions fans out there, I saw that they have actually officially contacted the Browns about star Myles Garrett. So they are a team in the mix.
That's ironic because I almost put it in the notes that earlier today I saw them mention that that it seems unlikely they're going to add a defensive lineman at all.
Wow. Oh, that's surprising. Did you see what's something that we could actually talk about too? See the Philadelphia Eagles, what they said about Myles Garrett and a potential trade to the Commanders.
I did not.
So Harry Roseman actually said that if the Commanders offered for Myles Garrett, they would not like to see him go to a divisional rival. So Harry Roseman would step in and offer the Browns an offer that they cannot refuse for Myles Garrett.
Wow. I mean, Honestly, what more does that Eagles team really need? There's really
No,
nothing more
absolutely
that they need.
nothing. They're literally just
They could
trying
literally they
to.
could literally give a first like 2 first-round picks for Miles Garrett and be perfectly fine.
I mean, I wouldn't want that, but yes, I get what you're
What do you
saying.
want?
Like, is that
More than two
well?
firsts?
If you're asking me to be honest with you, yeah, but like obviously he's getting up there in age, and his value isn't what it was if we were thinking about trading him 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. The Commanders are also someone's on the trade block for the Commanders, a defensive
Yeah,
lineman.
Jonathan Allen. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. So it makes me think that maybe how old is Jonathan Allen? Do we know?
I think he's older. He's probably in his 30s.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, if he was a little younger, I wonder if that could have been a potential trade with Miles
Mm.
Garrett that included Miles Garrett.
No, he's 30.
Yeah, okay. So it's not gonna work. But I think that also shows that maybe they will try to get Miles Garrett. Which I would
Yeah.
love personally to see him on the Commanders, not the Eagles. Sorry, Eagles fans. I just don't like the Eagles.
No,
But
I mean,
glad you guys beat the Chiefs.
no, I agree with you. I wouldn't want to see him. I wouldn't want him to go there either. Although I do want him to win. So wherever he goes, I want him to win. But as of right now, the news stands. The three teams that I have heard have contacted us are the Eagles, Commanders, and Lions. So
Honestly, they're all willing to pay. So if I was the
yeah.
Browns, I would be spiking the price and trying to get as much as possible.
Well, we're trying to get our leverage back by saying that we're not giving him up. But I don't know.
We know you're giving them up. Let's be real.
We'll see.
Well, let's get into the show. Breakouts or busts, second year players. What will happen? Let's first talk about the number one overall pick, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams finished in the fantasy world as a QB 16. Now, is that enough to be a breakout or a bust? Now, the reason why I'm going to start with is him being a breakout is because of the fact that Ben Johnson is there and that offense, I think, will succeed. Again, we could see him not turn out to be what we expected and what we wanted, but I think Ben Johnson can really turn the season around. So I'd like to see him break out, and I think we could see him between quarterback 11, quarterback 10, in between that and QB 14, which is considered a breakout.
Listen, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I agree with you for the exact same reasons. Ben Johnson worked magic in Detroit, and if he can do the same thing in Chicago, then yeah, I think Caleb Williams is going to live up to the hype.
Yeah. Keith has him as a bust, and I think that's because Keith he had no notes for it, but Keith did say he never was a Caleb Williams fan. So
That's right.
that is the one thing I did want to mention. He's not a fan of him, so I could very much see why. Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, this guy, he finishes the QB5 in fantasy. The reason why I'm going to say he's going to break out is because he's not going to bust where he's going to finish outside the top 10. I think he's still going to give you QB1 numbers every single year, hopefully every single year. And they're trying to add another wide receiver. And I think if they add another wide receiver threat, maybe bring back Zach Ertz, hopefully bring back Zach Ertz, I think it's just going to still not only help Jaden Daniels, but improve Jaden Daniels. Will he be above QB5 in fantasy? He could very much have a chance to be like QB3, but I think that's already reaching. This could be his ceiling that we see because we see a lot of great quarterbacks go up there and they stay up there, like Josh Allen. So I think it's not going to be much of a breakout, but he won't be a bust.
Man, I'll be honest with you. I think he's going to be potential top 3 fantasy quarterback next year.
Ooh.
That's my early hot take. But man, I loved what I saw from this year. Definitely proved me wrong. Never thought he was going to be a complete bust, but I thought he was just going to be an average, playable guy. Nothing crazy, but man, this kid's great. And I think you hit it. I think if they add another wide receiver, that top 3 fantasy quarterback is just all the more easier to grab for him. And think about it, right? Like you're going to have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen probably be in that top 2. After that, do you have a solidified three? I don't think so. Joe Burrow's there, but is he going to be a solidified three, especially if they lose T. Higgins? I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think
that's
that spot is wide open.
that's a very good point. I do want to mention we didn't mention the notes because I completely jumped over it. But Jalen Hurts, we always see as a very top fantasy quarterback. But the Packers proposed to ban that tush push,
And they
and
did
I just want to mention that if the tush push is end up being banned, that is going to hurt Jalen Hurts' fantasy
a
value
ton.
because a lot of his touchdowns, a lot of his points come from the tush push. And now Barkley finishes the RB1 or two, RB1, I believe, and he still wasn't even getting those 1 yard line carries. It was the tush push that was getting them. If that ends up being banned, what do? Do they try and scramble him out of the pocket, do a regular QB sneak? Maybe, but again, that's going to hurt his stock. So I do want to mention that if it does get banned, we could see Jalen Hurts falling outside the top 3 for fantasy.
And Saquon Barkley would be the automatic 101 if he's not already.
Yeah, he should be automatic 101. Automatic. Keith mentioned he'll be great again. That's what he mentioned. I think he also agrees with the fact that he doesn't have much room for more improvement, but he won't be a bust.
Okay.
Drake May. Gary, talk to me good. Talk to me good with Drake May because obviously that is my franchise quarterback.
So I like Drake May a lot. The only problem with me is, or the only problem with him, I should say, is I don't know if he's got like the superstar X factor breakout type. I put here not breakout, not bust. I think he's going to be a good to great player. Not necessarily sure I would call it a breakout. Also depends if they're able to draft a wide receiver or sign on a free agency. I can't necessarily say that I think he's going to break out with the wide receiver core that he has also. Although I think that they can make it work, I wouldn't necessarily say breakout. Like I said, love what I see from Drake May so far. But I don't know if I can call him a breakout player next year, but I definitely would not say a bust either. So I think he fits, you know what I'm trying to say? I feel like he's right in that middle.
Yeah, and I can see that. I marked him as a breakout based on his QB 23 finish. I think obviously their wide receiver core is horrendous. I think they're going to have to figure out ways to improve it, and I think they will address it this offseason. And I think that's going to improve Drake May's potential to be a success. And I think that's why I'm more leaning on the breakout. I think I could see him. I don't see him being a top 10 quarterback. We very much could see it. We saw it with Bo Nix. But I don't see that happening. I see him just falling outside of the top 10. We can see him being a low-end QB1, but a very high-end QB2, I believe.
I can see that. And if I'm 100% more on the breakout side than the bust side. So that's where my head is at. And I have a couple other players in this exact same category. So he's not the only one.
All Talk Sports in the chat. Hey, yo, boys.
There he is.
He's back. He's back. Guess who's back? Yeah, I'd like to see Drake May pop off. But again, for him to pop off, he needs weapons. And it's not going to do it with the weapons that we currently have on that team. Speaking of weapons and speaking of the projected rookie of the year and best wide receiver we've seen ever, Marvin Harrison. Gary, you love the guy. He finished as the wide receiver 30 in fantasy. Talk to me about Marvin Harrison and what's your thoughts about him? And will he be a breakout or will he still bust again?
So I said that I have a lot of guys in that same category as Drake May, and he's one of them. I'll be honest, I don't see him breaking out next year. I'm also more leaning towards breakout than bust with Marv as well, if I had to pick one. The problem is, obviously the connection just wasn't there. But you talk about a guy he had 900 receiving yards last year and 8 touchdowns. And when you talk about it as a rookie, that's a good season. That's a pretty good season.
Yeah.
However, he got a ton of hype coming in this year, deservedly so, completely understandable. But he just wasn't the guy that a lot of people expected him to be. And it's nothing new. by any means. But is he able to do better than next year? I 100% think so. Do I think it will happen? Honestly, not sure. I don't know if that connection with Kyler will be there.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern. Will the connection be there? Because we expected him to break out and be this really great wide receiver. And Meatball Marvin is, well, I'll talk
That's a
sports
great
next. And
nickname. Let's go.
Meatball Marvin, yeah, I had to put it up there. I saw it and I was like, that's actually so funny.
So
Um,
stupid.
but Meatball Marvin, here we go. If he can catch the meatballs, then sure, he can break out. But I just don't. I think he's going to still be overhyped in the draft based on the ADPs. I'm not going to mention the ADPs right now because they're all over the place because we're
Yeah.
not drafting until August. But I'm expecting him to be a top 15 wide receiver being drafted. And if we see something again like this year, I don't expect him to finish inside the top 20.
Mhm.
I can see him finishing as a low end wide receiver two, but a good wide receiver three. And I think that's a relatively good place to have him drafted, which is crazy to say for such a big name that we were expecting to see last year. But I just think he will be overhyped again, and they're going to expect him to break out. And that's why I'm going to consider him a bust.
Yeah, I could see it.
And like Keith says, it's a bust. I don't think he and Kyler get on with each other.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's go into another great sensation wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 6 with Daniel Jones. This guy, I mean, to think that he ended up being this great. I mean, I thought he was going to be okay. I didn't think he was going to be a wide receiver 6 finish. I love Malik Neighbors and what we saw with him. And if he does get a true quarterback, if he gets someone like Russell Wilson, who I'm expecting him to go there, or drafting a quarterback in Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or I don't know, getting Aaron Rodgers. I think this is just going to improve Malik Neighbors. Won't improve, though, if Aaron Rodgers goes there with Devontae Adams, but will improve overall if a quarterback goes there that can actually play quarterback. So I think he is a breakout player, and I think the reason why I'm saying breakout is because he's going to finish around that wide receiver 6 range with an upgraded quarterback.
This is my guy, man. I love Malik Neighbors. I got him in Dynasty. I'm super excited. Drafted him for the future purposes, so I was very happy with how he played this year. But yeah, man, I have been saying it all year as well. If the Browns don't take Shedeur or Cam Ward, whoever ends up there, whoever ends up as the quarterback of New York is going to just have an unbelievable season duo wise, whoever it is, and Neighbors. I think they're going to go off. So I would be so excited to see that. If Shedeur doesn't end up coming to Cleveland, I would love to see him and Malik Neighbors in New York. That would just be so fun, in my opinion.
Now, Keith has him as a breakout as well, but here's my question. If, per se, Rodgers goes there, Devontae Adams also goes there, do we still see him as a breakout or finishing around the wide receiver 6 range? We saw Garrett Wilson do really good still.
Yeah, I'd probably drop him to like the 10, like
Okay.
9-10 range, if I'm being honest with you, because yeah, we did see Garrett Wilson do great, but how many wide receivers have another elite wide receiver next to them and they're able to, replicate the same season that they had the year before? Not a lot. So that would definitely deteriorate his status a little bit. But as of right now, I do have him as a breakout candidate.
Yeah, I also, of course, but I would see him more of a high-end wide receiver too. And I don't see him finishing as a top 10 wide receiver if Devontae Adams or another star-studded guy goes there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Michael Penix Jr. QB45, ironically, because he didn't really play. The 2 games he did play, he put up 1 point or less, 0.6. Now it looks like Kirk Cousins is either going to be out the door or going to be the highest paid second string quarterback with like $45 million. If Michael Penix is the starter there, I don't know if I really always had a trust in it. Michael Penix, never did, and I don't know if I ever will. So I really see his true potential in the NFL, and that is why I'm still going to consider him a bust for the 2025 season.
I agree, man. I liked him at Washington, but I just can't, I don't see it. I really don't. I didn't liked the pick when it happened, made no sense, and
Mm.
I don't know what the Falcons are doing. It's kind of confusing. Like, I'll just leave it at that, to be honest. But I have him as a bust candidate.
Keith has him as a breakout.
Yeah, he does.
And I think the reason why is I think Kyle Pitts, Drake London, maybe they add another wide receiver threat there. But I just, Atlanta always has had these guys, but no quarterback has been able to actually help produce and kind of get these next guys to the next level because they've kind of just
Yeah.
been mediocre in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think we just give Drake London and Kyle Pitts a redo and go anywhere, any team that they want. Because I think they can succeed anywhere but Atlanta.
I don't know. I'm not fans of either of them, to be honest.
I wasn't a big fan of Kyle Pitts, but Drake London I was a little bit of a fan of. So let's talk about Rome Odunze, wide receiver 49. And Keith, I'll start with Keith first because his notes were really funny to me. He considers Rome Odunze to be a bust. And his notes on that was his QB sucks and will suck again.
Yeah, I mean, we disagree with that, obviously. But I agree with Keith in that Rome Odunze will be a bust. And it's unfortunate because it's another guy that I liked at Washington. I like that entire Washington team, to be honest. But I don't think if the Bears become what we think they're going to be, I don't think Odunze is going to be like this focal point or like even a big part in it. I really don't. I mean, we'll see what they do with the wide receiver position, if they do anything at all, if they're just completely content with having the guys that they have right now, I guess. But I really can't see a world where Odunze breaks out. Like, I think he's just going to be like the guy that sits around like 700 yards.
I think Keenan Allen being the departure of Keenan Allen is going to help Rome Odunze. And I think he is going to break out. And I think the reason why is I'm also sticking to the fact that Caleb Williams I consider to be a breakout because of the way the offense is going to run with Ben Johnson. And I think that's why I'm having a little bit of a hopefulness on this team and on the quarterback. But again, it all falls on Caleb Williams. If he can produce, Rome Odunze can also produce. If he cannot produce, well, we may see just another bust season out of Rome Odunze as well.
Yeah.
Sucks. JJ McCarthy, again, he was drafted in the first round. I can't say his stats because he got hurt. But Gary, what's your thoughts on JJ McCarthy?
Ooh. I never want to see him do good. No, I have him as a bust candidate, and it's not because he went to Michigan. I
think it's solely exactly the reason why.
It's not, and I knew that's what you would say, so that's why I addressed it first. I genuinely just don't think like he's got like I'm looking at all these guys, and I'm like, do I think at any point next year they'll have like this X factor that'll make them break out? I don't think JJ McCarthy has that. I think he is a perfect prototypical, like down to the science, like middle quarterback, like what you want to describe to like high schoolers when they're first, maybe starting, or like middle schoolers when they're first starting playing football. This is a quarterback that you might look to like, show what a quarterback is. I don't think he's got these like X factor talents that would just make him break out. I really don't. I think he'll be solid in the league, but nothing better than that.
I disagree.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
And I'll give you Keith's take on it. Here's the notes from Keith. Keith says he will also be a bust, and Fernando will cry. It's really funny, but I've doubled down, I've tripled down, I've done every possible down I can, and hopefully I can get a first down with JJ McCarthy because JJ McCarthy I consider to be a solid quarterback coming in from the draft. A lot of people like Gary, like Heath, and like some other people think that JJ McCarthy cannot succeed in the NFL, and I think he very much can, and I think he will be a breakout once he is fully healthy. once he is fully healthy, I think there's a big potential for him. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Jordan Addison. Does he still have T.J. Hawkinson too? Yeah, he's got all the weapons. He's got all the weapons in the world to succeed. If he does not succeed, well, it was a good run, and I didn't succeed on that. And there will be a turnover on downs because this is my fourth and final down with J.J. McCarthy. So I hope that J.J. McCarthy can break out. Will he be a top 12 quarterback? No, I don't think so. Not in his first season back, because I think he's still going to have some early struggles in the first couple games because, again, he's a rookie quarterback technically in his second year. Kind of basically just redshirted the first year because he was injured all season. So give him a slow start, but by the end of the year, I think we're going to see him putting up some good numbers.
Yeah, I think we're also forgetting the possibility that another guy might be there.
So. It's not Aaron Rodgers. It's not Mr. Darnold goes Darnold.
Is it not? I don't know.
Please give JJ McCarthy. If you're signing another quarterback in Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers, trade away JJ McCarthy. Give him a chance. Give the poor guy a chance.
Poor guy. Here we go.
Poor guy.
Went to Michigan, for Christ's sakes. Come on.
Tom Brady went to Michigan. This guy can be as good as Tom Brady. All right, that might be a stretch. That might be a stretch.
Hilarious.
That might be a stretch. But I'm just saying, just keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out. Henry in the comments on Instagram says he's going to be a bust. So, again, it's just the world against me.
Well said.
The world,
well said.
World against me. We'll have to see. Let's talk about the final quarterback that went in the first few rounds of the draft last year. That's Bo Nix. Bo Nix finished as the QB7. And Keith actually has some negativity on Bo Nix. I don't know why, but he says he will be good. Oh, no, sorry. I read that completely wrong. I read it with your line as well on it. No, Keith actually does not have any negativity. He says he will be good again. So he's not saying it's going to be a breakout, not going to be a bust. And Gary, what's your thoughts on that?
Other guy that I have in the not breakout, not bust category. If he does break out, will not be surprised at all. But if he busts, I will not be surprised at all. I don't know what to think about Bo Nix, to be honest with you. Was not a fan coming into the draft. Definitely proved me wrong for sure. But I don't know if he can do it again. I really don't. I think he's another guy that's going to be good, not great. And I wouldn't necessarily call that a breakout season, especially when he just had quarterback 7 season in fantasy.
Yeah, I think he can finish as a top 10 quarterback. I consider him as a breakout because I still think he can still get into the top 10 quarterback. I think he should be drafted as a QB1, but I think his value will drop by the time we come around to the draft because there's so many better named quarterbacks. And I think we're going to see a lot of those get taken over him. And to me, I'm perfectly fine taking Bo Nix as my QB1 and drafting him as like the QB 14, 15.
Okay.
So I think I'd like to see it. I don't mind it. Let's talk about the one and only tight end. No, sorry. We're not going to talk about the one and only tight end because there's 2 tight ends. We're going to actually talk about Ben Sinnott first.
Let's go.
Ben Sinnott, this guy, you might have forgot about him. Well, you know what? He was drafted in the first 3 rounds by the Commanders. He was a tight end 80. Keith says he's going to bust, and he expects Ertz to return. I also consider him as a bust. I don't know if we're going to see much of Ben Sinnott because I think they're going to still try and get a tight end. I don't know if Ben Sinnott is the guy to be the tight end 1 there. So I don't see that happening. And yeah.
Him and Will Howard are playing great at Kansas State, but the thing is, I mean, he wasn't even involved in the offense this year at all. So it's like you're not even giving us like podcasters material to talk about here. Like there's honestly nothing to go off of. Like he played the entire season. It's not like he got hurt for an extended amount of time. Like he just genuinely did not do anything like the entire season. Thus the tight end 80 tag. So I also have him as a bust candidate. I can't see a world where he just magically becomes a top 20 tight end.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. We may see tight end 20 because tight end 20 is very easy to get to. But if he, again, He's a backup tight end. He's no more than an undrafted
Yeah.
free agent and a waiver wire ad
Right.
for a week or two that he does good. So, but it was something to keep in mention to mention because of him being drafted in the first 3 rounds. It just goes to show that they did spend a lot of capital on him,
Yep.
day 2 pick, but he could still be irrelevant.
Yeah.
Honestly, you ask me any of these names on the list, you tell me that they're drafted in the first 3 rounds, I wouldn't have believed you on Benson on.
Yeah.
Let's go back up to the top of the first round, second round, first round still, right? Brock Bowers.
Yep.
Brock Bowers, well, I mean, I think he was okay. You know, he was an okay tight end this year. Finishes the tight end 1 in his rookie season. Keith says it perfectly. Can he break out anymore? He'll be good again. And I think that's the consensus really between all of us because of the fact that or you can't break out more than tight end 1. And the only way you bust if you finish outside the top 10, and I think it's, or even outside the top 8, 7, and I just don't see a world where Brock Bowers does go under that.
Neither do I. And that's, I mean, unless they bring Devontae Adams comes back, plus they draft Tedero McMillan, that might be a scenario where it's possible, but that's asking for a lot to happen, and I don't think it would happen. I also have him as a breakout candidate, and definitely a guy that I think is going to finish as a top 3 tight end again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to see Travis Kelce finish the top 3 anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go into one of the sensations as the wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr., finishing as the wide receiver 4. As again, Jaguars being the second favorite, he played phenomenal. He played amazing, lights out.
He did.
Christian Kirk is the biggest question mark because if he does stay there, I think it's going to help Brian Thomas. If Christian Kirk leaves, they don't add someone else, and they expect Thomas to be the number 1 wide receiver, I don't know if he can pull that off. And I hope that Christian Kirk does end up staying. I just don't see a world where Brian Thomas can finish as a top 10 wide receiver again. I mean, obviously there is a world because he did it, but a wide receiver 4 finish is very tough. And I think a lot of people might overhype him. And I think this is, I hate to break it to you, this is his ceiling. I wouldn't be so surprised if he finishes as a top 3 wide receiver ever in his career.
Freddie, you're speaking facts on this one, man. I can't steer any other direction than the one that you're in right now. I also have him as a bust candidate. To be honest with you, I didn't do much thinking on this. This is strictly a gut feeling. Not a guy that I could see doing it 2 seasons in a row. Really can't. At least his first 2 years in the league, I can't. I think he's going to have not a substantial decline, but definitely a decline. I see him falling into the wide receiver 11, probably less than that, probably 13 to 15 range.
I think he's a solid wide receiver too, being drafted.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, Keith considers him as a breakout candidate, meaning he will probably finish inside the top 10. And I guess we'll have to see. Xavier Worthy, was he worthy of a pick? Was he worthy of being drafted? Well, the worthiness of him was a wide receiver 33 finish. I think we're going to see him break out. I think he is going to surpass his wide receiver 33 finish. I think they're going to have to really figure out if Travis Kelce is going to be able to catch the ball anymore. And I think they're going to have to really look at who's going to be the next guy stepping up in Kelce's kind of not existence, but he's still going to be there, but he's not going to be as involved. And I think Worthy's going to be that guy. He's a speedy threat. We saw Worthy have a little breakout a little bit in the Super Bowl. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him finish as a wide receiver 24 or a little higher.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. I mean, how he finished the season is remarkable to me. He was the only guy that actually tried in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. Somehow won me a ton of money, so I was very pleased with that. But yeah, man, I love Xavier Worthy. I liked him coming out of the draft. I just knew he was going to be a Chief. I knew that the draft was going to let it work out that way, and Man, I think he's got all the talent in the world, and I think he's going to be honestly a star. I could see him being a top 12 wide receiver. I really could.
That'd be nice. Be nice to see. I mean, with the speed, he's got enough to be that way.
Yeah.
Let's go with Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall finishes wide receiver 82. Then he got shot. So then he didn't play for half the season. But the fact that he managed to come back from that was remarkable. And I want to mention that he played, not only did he play half the season, he was averaging 8.5 fantasy points in that back half of the season. And I think this is a guy that we saw break out really at the end, right at the end. And it could be just like a little flaw that we see a lot with a lot of wide receivers, maybe getting some late season hype, transitioning over. But I think once Debo is traded or released or cut or whatever you want to do with him, Debo needs to go. Ayuk and Pearsall is the guy. Pearsall is the guy. And I think I could see him as a breakout. Keith also has him as a breakout. He also mentioned once Debo is traded, I think this is a guy that there's so much potential with him. And I'm excited to see the potential on that offense, in the Kyle Shanahan offense.
So what I typed was Pearsall being another one of those players in that not breakout, not bust area. I'm actually going to switch it to breakout. I think that if Debo is to go, he could really be great. Honestly, he could have like a Brian Thomas Jr. esque, underrated season that maybe nobody even knows about. I also saw something. I don't think it would happen, but I saw a lot of teams have been contacting the Niners about Ayuk's availability, not even Debo. So, I mean, just imagine if he were to also get moved. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's as far fetched as a lot of people may think, because even though he got hurt pretty much the entire year, those however many games he played, Ayuk did not look good. He really didn't. And if teams are willing to take on that contract to trade for him, I wouldn't honestly totally be surprised if the Niners jump on it. So I think the future is wide open for Ricky Pearsall. Like I said, had him as a not breakout, not bust candidate, but I'm changing that to a breakout candidate.
Yeah, I think they should just get rid of Ayuk. They overpaid for him, and then he turned out to be nothing after his payday.
Yeah.
So, Xavier Legette. Unfortunately, Legette's a bust for me. He's on the Panthers, who maybe Bryce Young does end up turning out to be a guy that we can actually start to trust. But for now, for me, he's a bust. Keith also has him not as a bust, but as a breakout candidate. Legette finished the wide receiver 60. I see him again falling to a wide receiver 4 range.
I also have him as a bust, and it's not necessarily in the fact that the quarterback play could be bad. I just generally don't think he's that good. I really don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I could see him having exactly the same season.
Hopefully, he does end up having a great season. But again, I also agree with you. I just don't know if he is the guy that can succeed. And they also just have a great way of drafting wide receivers. I mean, Jonathan Mingo, they managed to trade him for a 4th-round pick.
Right, exactly.
So, we finally hit the second round of wide receivers and players. Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman being drafted, finishes the wide receiver 71. Very disappointing, because I really was expecting him to be a solid breakout this year and do great. Turned out not to be. Keith says tough one, breakout, but it can go either way. I think it's a breakout. I think we have to see him break out. I think Amari Cooper not being there is going to help the team, honestly, more. I think it's going to help Keon Coleman. I think when Amari Cooper wasn't there, Keon Coleman actually wasn't doing that bad. And I think we're going to see Keon Coleman break out this year.
I disagree. I have him as a bust candidate, and he was one of the guys that I also had as a bust candidate going into last year. I know he had a lot of people believing that he was going to be special with Josh Allen. I personally just wasn't on that same page, honestly. I think it's going to be a bust again, and a thing that not necessarily makes me worried, but I take note of is the fact that Shakir just got paid. I mean, obviously they're going to want to involve him and use him in so many more ways. What that means for Keon Coleman, I don't know, but I know the focus for sure is going to be on Shakir in that offense, and I don't. I really think Keon Coleman's gonna have that great of a year. I really don't.
So you think he could be as low as a wide receiver 3 on that team?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention the unpredictability of the Bills' offense. I mean,
Yeah.
you could see games where Keon Coleman goes for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then you'll see him go a stretch where he doesn't like get a catch for 2 games. So it's like,
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I can very much see that, especially with the run offense that they have now with James Conner.
right, yeah,
It'll be interesting to see. I do hope Keon Coleman, though, does turn out to be a great guy. Hope maybe actually not for Patriots' sake, but I mean, then again, at the same time, he could be a breakout, he could be a bust, and Josh Allen still does really great.
yeah.
Lad McConkey. You guys have him as actually, I'll let you talk about him first.
Yeah, I have him as a breakout candidate. I really liked Lad McConkey coming out of Georgia, and I said it when he was like a junior at Georgia. I said if he could just stay healthy, he will be a great player in the league. And sure enough, was able to stay healthy, and a lot of people saw that he was a great player. Finished as a wide receiver 12. I could 100% see him finishing around that same range. Him and Herbert clicked very early, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets even better next year.
I just don't see it. Finishing as a wide receiver 12, I think that's might be his ceiling. I'm surprised he finishes as a wide receiver 1. I just see him as a bust. I think we could see Keenan Allen coming back in. We could see them adding another wide receiver. I think they just need some other wide receiver. Not saying Lad McConkey is going to completely bust, but I think he will bust, and we could see him as a wide receiver 2.
Sure.
I'd be surprised wide receiver 3, but I'd expect him as a wide receiver 2. But I think there is a lot of hype on him, and I think he's going to be drafted high, and I think that's going to be the issue.
Okay.
Jalen Polk. Well, I'll tell you, as a Patriots fan, it was the most. I remember exactly where I was. I was on the Eastern campus. I was at the Springfest actually, Springfest Fair, the carnival. I was at the ticket booth, and I was getting a ticket to go into the carnival. Until I saw that trade. We were at the basketball hoops, shooting some basketballs, waiting for the Patriots to be up on the pick. They traded down. I said, all right, they trade down. They're going to still get maybe a good wide receiver that they need. Then someone goes up to me. I forget who it was. But someone comes up to me. Hey, the Patriots drafted. I said, oh, let me look. Polk. Jalen Polk. Who the heck is that guy? This guy has turned out to be an absolute nobody. And he will continue to be a nobody because he's going to be a bust. And I'll already say, Gary, one word. Is he a breakout or a bust?
Absolute trash.
Yeah, that wasn't one word. Keith also has him as a bust. And this guy just, why did you draft him? You just wasted a second-round pick on him. I mean, this was actually horrendous. This is how I was ranting when I saw his name come off the board for the Patriots. I mean, you could have done – I would have been fine with A.D. Mitchell, which I'm also not fine with, but A.D. Mitchell would have been even better than freaking Polk. I like Javon Baker more than Polk. That's my
yeah. No, that's totally acceptable. I'll be honest, Polk is another Washington guy that I liked, but I thought you guys were going to go with A.D. Mitchell, who I was very high on coming out of the draft, and we'll talk about him in a few minutes. But yeah, I mean, this guy clearly was one of the worst draft picks. I know he had a better season than Javon Baker, though. I'll say that. I think Javon Baker had 1 catch this season.
Yeah.
So we won't dive into too much about him, but yeah, I have him as a bust. And if anybody in this world has him as a breakout candidate, I would just bet on it because those odds would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably favored a lot to break out. I tell you what, if Jalen Polk finishes as a wide receiver 36 or better, I'd be surprised.
Dude, if he finishes as like a wide receiver 50 or better, like, to be honest with you.
Like that's the day pigs fly, I'm telling you. Polk was actually just horrendous. It was just,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I just hated that. I could have GM'd so much better for the Patriots. You know what? It would be a great dream job to have. Being the general manager of a team. I'd love to have that job. Man,
Yeah.
I feel like I could be better than half these GMs. Let's talk about the last one, AD Mitchell. We mentioned him slightly. He is currently he finishes the wide receiver 112, so not much better than Polk. He averaged 3.2 points a game. Now you might think that maybe he played only a couple games. He was in every single game, 17 games. He's a bust. The question now goes to really my biggest concern is Michael Pittman's the guy there. Why'd you draft AD Mitchell in second round? He turned out to be nothing. I just don't know if the quarterback situation is also there with Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco or whoever the backup quarterback is. And I think that's going to be the issue. And we're going to see that with AD Mitchell again. So I consider him a bust. Keith also considers him a bust. And he likes the talent, but his QB isn't good enough.
Yeah, and I also have bust. I put probably unfortunately because, like I had mentioned, I was big on him. Hated him at Georgia, but loved him at Texas. And I actually wanted the Browns to draft him, and Nicole selected him like 2 picks before we picked, so I was devastated. But as it turns out, I guess it's not that good. Very unfortunate because I also do like the talent. Whether it's his quarterback or him, I don't know. But I'm going to not pin the entire blame on Anthony Richardson because AD Mitchell just strictly wasn't good this year. So hopefully that changes, but I think it's not going to.
I just want Keon Coleman to go to the Patriots. That was my hope.
Okay. Well,
that was my hope. It turned out not to be the hope that I wanted. Yeah, I mean, AD Mitchell, maybe there's a chance for him to come back, but again, wide receiver 3 is, I think, the ceiling I would give him.
Yeah.
And yeah, for Jalen Polk, maybe wide receiver nothing. Wide receiver nothing. It's just how it is. It's just how it is.
Hey, we got one more guy now.
Do we?
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks.
Oh, no.
Oh, Trey Benson.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Trey Benson a little bit.
Oh,
He's a bust.
on, man.
He's a bust.
I also have him as a bust. We'll keep it short and sweet. I was never a fan of him in James Conner supremacy. Let's go.
Yeah. Keith has him as a breakout. Again, I consider him a bust only because, like you just said, he has James Conner, and James Conner will be the top guy there. And that's just how it's going to be. Yeah. Until James Conner goes down or gets traded or gets released or whatnot, Trey Benson is a nobody. But I'd tell you what, I think he is a great handcuff to have in fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
James Conner went over 1,000 yards. Don't forget that.
As he always does.
As he always does. That's going to do it for today's show. Again, if you haven't done so already, go use that code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. They're going to match your first deposit up to $1,000. And again, if you're looking to purchase a trophy, a ring, a belt, you can go to trophysmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Again, fantasy baseball is right around the corner. That's going to be exciting. Going to be in a couple leagues, Gary. If you're looking, or if you have someone in a league, and I don't know. But again, go get yourself a ring, trophy, belt for that season, or if you still haven't bought yourself a trophy for any of your leagues, be sure to go to trophysmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Gary, quick question: Guardians, are they World Series champs this year?
Man, I'd love to say yes, but probably not.
Well, we're going to hope that the Red Sox can actually make it to the postseason, as they should have always made, and the GM will finally start spending money. But the Devers drama has been crazy, so I tell you
Yes, it has.
That has been crazy, and that's been nerve-wracking because I'm a big Devers fan. But Devers needs to realize he can be DH and still succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it could still work out, but you got an ego, apparently, so we'll see.
Yeah, we will have to see. Again, we're here every single week, Wednesdays and Sundays. Wednesday, we are here every week at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Next show, we got a good show. We're redrafting the 2024 NFL first round. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting to see what our thoughts were, what actually happened last year, and what we think should be drafting when we redraft it. But that's going to do it here for this week's show. I was joined by my great co-host, Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GDPicks. And again, Keith. Hopefully we'll see him on Sunday. Go follow him all over his social media at swampdonkey_90. I'm your host, Fernando, and you can follow us all over social media at SportsTimeHQ. And we'll see you all Sunday.